I'm so glad you all came today for Radio Day by the Bay, and we are waiting for our orchestra to make lovely sounds, and then we will begin. From the western shores of California and the Isle of Alameda, above the 7 giant steps from Central Avenue into the Kofman Auditorium, we now present the Golden Gate Radio Orchestra, and it's on the air now. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to swing and sway to the music of the great American songbook. The Golden Gate Radio Orchestra plays the wonderful music popular during the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, from the original arrangements used by the orchestras of those days. Return with us now to those days of yesteryear. Under the direction of Maestro Stephen Redding, the orchestra will take us on an arrangement of an old favorite, Do You Ever Think of Me, in a Larry Clinton arrangement with a definite swing.
It is a delight to be here in this wonderful hall and in front of such a distinguished audience this afternoon. I'm Stephen Redding. I'm the director of this group, and from here on it's ad-libbed, and I'm not as good as most of you at this. So bear with us. We come from across the bay in San Mateo, and so this is the first time we've all been together today. So some of us were here earlier, so we're putting this together as we go. We play the original hits and some misses from about 50 years ago back to about 1920. That is our specialty. And we play them from original arrangements. We have a collection of about 9,000 original sets of music that the original arrangements that were issued at the time. These pieces were brand new. Every orchestra used to play from these, and many of the famous big bands arrangements actually were derived from these arrangements, which were made by the publishing houses to push this music. Back in this era, historically, everybody played this kind of music. This was the garage band, sort of its day. And in your towns, you had dances, and the high school bands played them, and jazz was very suspicious in the 20s, but eventually this type of music took over, and it was very much something that was very commercial. So these arrangements were made so that in this case, pretty good groups of players could get together and play these arrangements which were the major hits. So they were churned out like crazy. So that's why we have thousands of them. It's a pleasure to perform some of these because some of these arrangements probably have not been heard since they were put away in the files, probably around World War II in many cases. So it's always a rediscovery. We have a full band. This is a community organization. No one here is paid. Okay? We do this voluntarily. We meet in San Mateo on Wednesday nights, and whoever shows up, this is actually a sort of audition group. It's one on a part. And we have older people that bring great experience, much closer to that era, and we have younger people that are learning and are terrific musicians who have come in, and many have come back after 20 years off of an instrument. So we are not pros. We don't pretend to be. We do this for the fun of it. So, with that said, now you know who we are. Anna, our vocalist here, actually lives here in Alameda. I think she went home between the rehearsal and the performance. The rest of us have been eating hot dogs, okay, and looking at old radio equipment and visiting the street fair, I think. She grew up in a musical household. I'm reading what she told me to read, okay. Her mom was an opera singer with the Portland Opera, and through her mom, she got her first role as Kim in Showboat at the age of 5, one of her mature roles. The family joke is that Anna got a solo, a bow, but her mom got the paycheck. Okay. Anna's long affair with big band music was through her dad, who took swing dance lessons with her mom, but Anna turned out to be a better dancer and follower. So I'm having a hard time reading this. So anyway, she comes with a lot of experience, and she's from Alameda here. Not from here, but she lives here. We will continue now. Eric Ribeiro is very well known on the peninsula. That's on that side of the bay. I know we get very regional in the Bay Area here, and I don't know how many, maybe you're all from San Francisco. I am from San Francisco, so we come from all over. Eric plays in a lot of roles in musicals with many theater groups on the peninsula, some of them the professional and semi-professional. He's played really wonderful roles. I've been with this group. This is my 4th year, and he has been the one that was the one singer that has been here the whole time with us. So he will be entertaining you. We will be playing an arrangement of a wonderful old one that was famous by the Ink Spots, I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire.
I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a flame in your heart. In my heart I have but one desire, and that one is you. No other will do. I've lost all ambition for worldly acclaim. I just want to be the one you love. And with your admission that you feel the same, I'll have reached the goal I've dreamed, believe me. I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a flame in your heart.
Is there a way to get the house lights up about half? Oh, thank you. I know there are people out there. Good. Okay. From here, that's just black out there. Our next number comes from the famous Duke Ellington Band in an arrangement by his very famous arranger, Billy Strayhorn. It's about a streetcar in New York. Take the A train. Next, we move up the coast to Vermont, and a little moonlight. Moonlight in Vermont, the state song of Vermont. We are not singing the words because the person that wrote the words to this song did not live in Vermont. He lived in Ohio, and there's all sorts of trees and things that are mentioned that do not happen in Vermont. However, it was a minor hit. Featured will be on our cornet player in orange will be Gary Helbig, who has a good solo in this one. And that was Jonas Stippens on the trumpet in the last number, our lead trumpet. Gary, I forgot. I'm not old enough to remember, but I suspect in the Golden Age radio, these little slips didn't happen because there was probably someone running around pointing and propping up people that didn't know what to do in between, like me. So Gary got his late response. These, the type of orchestras we're called the Golden Gate Radio Orchestra. We are actually, in this configuration, I would say this would represent a late 1930s big band arrangement. The orchestras varied over those years, but in every big city, every large theater, many restaurants, cafeterias even, which were large in those days, radio stations, vaudeville houses, and often, shall we say, burlesque houses. They did exist. Those kinds of places all had live musicians. In the 1920s, until the sound movies came in 1927, and really there was a bridge until about 1929 or 30. There was a quick changeover, but not super quick in the large houses. Orchestras still were retained because there were vaudeville-type shows or entertainment in between on the stages between movies. There would be a 2-hour movie, and then there would be a show. If you were in like the Radio City Music Hall, I think most of you would be familiar with that. When you're looking at the stage shows they do there with the Rockettes and all, that is a remnant of what happened in the very largest theaters in any city. Here it would have happened probably not at the Fox in Alameda or the Paramount, because that really was a later movie house, but certainly the old Fox in San Francisco, they had these humongous stage shows that went on in between movies, silent movies. Generally, the silent movies were not accompanied by an orchestra, contrary to what the San Francisco Symphony and everybody else wants you to think. It was usually the orchestra would be there for the in-between, often start the movie, and it would be turned over to a house organ, theater organ. I happen to like all of these things, so I know about them. So the kind of thing we're looking at here would have happened on radio at a time when they were thinning down a bit. The original orchestras, studio orchestras, say in New York City, often the NBC, for instance, at Radio City had on staff a full symphony orchestra. The NBC Symphony Orchestra of Arturo Toscanini was all staff of NBC from 1937 until 1952. That was 100-plus players. However, carved out of those players were players that did all of these other radio shows. They would be doing the melodramas. They would be backing up singing shows. There was tons of music on radio. As many of you that, if you've been around that long, remember that was really what kept radio going, was the musical shows. So these staff orchestras played a lot of this kind of stuff, and they had more strings than we're using today. It would be a full orchestra of maybe about 25 to 30 players. So this is when we talk about a radio orchestra, they were meant to do almost anything. And they would be running from show to show. In New York City, they would run from Studio 8H, which was Toscanini's, that was the big 1,000-seat studio. They would sometimes sneak out of a rehearsal to run down and be doing the Lone Ranger down below or whatever show it was they had to do. And it used to cause a lot of trouble with some of the people because they were kind of double dipping. So these were busy people. At the time of World War II, this changed, and certainly television, we retained some of these, and during the 50s. Also, I forgot the movie studios also had orchestras, live orchestras. When I grew up in Los Angeles in the early 1950s, when I was a little kid, there were 5 full symphony orchestras. We had the LA Philharmonic and 4 movie studio orchestras that pretty much kept busy full-time accompanying movies. So that is how this kind of music was really used. It was this kind of music, or instrumental music of this sort, was everywhere. That was the environment. It was all changed by rock and roll, and I have no comment to make. Our next number, we're going to get a little bit down and dirty. Anna dressed up though, but we're going to do "Baby, Won't You Please Come Home." This is a Clarence Williams tune. Clarence Williams was a black composer, very important in the about World War I on. He did a little of everything. He wrote music. He played piano well. He made orchestras. He built stars. He did everything. And this is a famous tune, but this is upgraded into a little. Well, you got to hear it.
Please come home, 'cause your mama's all alone. I have tried in vain, never no more to call your name. When you left, you broke my heart, because I never thought we'd part. Every hour of the day, you will hear me say, "Baby, won't you please come home?" Baby, won't you please come home?
I feel a little dirty. So we will move uptown now a little. One of the more popular things to do in the swing era was there was a little phase of taking some familiar classical tunes and bringing them up to date, so to speak. And Larry Clinton, who had a very, very fine orchestra. He wasn't at the peak of the fame of orchestras, but Larry Clinton was one of the very finest arrangers and arranged for Tommy Dorsey, and a number of very well-known hits you may know actually were written or arranged by him in the arrangements that we are familiar with from recordings. And he did take this nice Debussy tune called My Reverie. It's taken from a piano piece, and we will have Eric come back and serenade you.
Our love is a dream, but in my reverie, I can see that this love was meant to be. Only a poor fool, never schooled in a whirlpool of romance, could be so cruel as you are to me. My dreams are as worthless as tin to me. Without you, life could never begin to be. So love me as I loved you in my reverie. Make my dream a reality. Let's dispense with formality. Come to me in my reverie.
That's called the reed section. They don't even know what they are when I call them. They play real well, though, don't they? It's kind of my turn to take a minute to say something I don't ever get to really say, because I'm supposed to be yelling at the people most of the time as director. However, this is a wonderful group to get to conduct. I have really been amazed. We've come a long way since I've been here for a few years, but the expertise these people bring, there's hundreds of years of hard work practicing. These people sight read like crazy. We, on Wednesday nights, dig out 10 pieces of music we've never seen. I don't have a clue what it's going to sound like because I only get a piano score. And we just read, and then we pick things we like to do. And these people, they're just tremendous readers. It's a rare treat, and we're hidden away, No one knows we exist. If you're over in San Mateo up at Crystal Springs area on a Wednesday night, you're welcome to drop by during most of the year except summer and sit in on a rehearsal. You might find a few tunes you know. For our last number this afternoon, let's see, it's still daylight outside. We're going to turn to Artie Shaw, one of the really great, if not there's 2 or 3 greatest band leaders from the connoisseurs. And Artie Shaw is almost always on that list of the top 5 for sure. And I won't tell you who the other 4 might be. That's your decision. However, Artie Shaw had a tumultuous life. I think he was even with Mickey Rooney in the number of wives he married, and perhaps the length of time he stayed married to them. He was a very, very brilliant man. I met him once, and he was late. I was young, and he was late in life, and I was at a table in a hotel banquet sitting, and you just basically sat and listened to him talk because it was hard to get a word in edgewise. And if you got the word in edgewise, perhaps he didn't agree with you, and he let you know. But he was a brilliant, brilliant man, and his bands were always changing. He kept cutting them off and quitting them because he just got bored with them. He was that kind of a person. But he left us a number of arrangements, and this is one of them. It's from an old favorite early jazz piece called Jazz Me Blues, and this is a swing arrangement. It's actually an arrangement by Jerry Gray, who was one of his arrangers. Jerry Gray made many, many fine arrangements. And if this doesn't get your toes tapping, perhaps you need to, if you notice that next to you, you might want to poke to make sure that you don't need to call 911.
Thank you. Let's hear it for the Golden Gate Radio Orchestra. Thank you. Thank you very much, and thanks everyone for coming. It's been a wonderful day. The day is not over. It will continue with another auction segment, and we will soon be drawing the raffle ticket for the winning of the radio. Is Seth Arp in the room? If he's not, we'll get him down here. Okay, and now we must bring our time together to a close. 'Tis sad, and we know some will touch a handkerchief to their nose. But let us be grateful for this time together and the exceptional Alameda weather. And salute with all propriety and sobriety our hosts, the California Historical Radio Society. Ladies and gentlemen, the Golden Gate Radio Orchestra is off the air.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Golden Gate Radio Orchestra, what a great addition to Radio Day by the Bay. Thanks so much for being part of it here today. Terrific.